My father introduced me to his business partner who became my boyfriend. Plot twist. Dad sold me in a marriage contract to pay his debt, and my boyfriend owns me legally in another country. I'm Riley. I'm 26, and I found out 3 months ago that my entire relationship was a transaction. The worst part? I was so stupidly in love I didn't see it coming. Let me back up just a little. 2 years ago, my dad introduced me to Nikolai at this charity gala in Manhattan. Dad said Nikolai was investing in his commercial real estate business. Nikolai was tall, had this accent I couldn't quite place somewhere between Russian and something else, and he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. I should have known then. Nobody looks at someone like that naturally. But I was fresh off a terrible breakup with my college boyfriend, who cheated on me with his study partner, and Nikolai was different. He was older, 34, successful, worldly. He'd traveled everywhere. He knew 4 languages. He made me feel like I mattered. We started dating a week after that gala. Dad was thrilled. He kept saying things like, "Nikolai's a good man, and you two are perfect together." My father had never approved of anyone I dated, not once. So his enthusiasm should have been a red flag the size of Texas. But I was stupid and hopeful, and really lonely. Nikolai moved fast. Within 3 months, we were talking about moving in together. Within 6 months, he proposed. I said yes because I genuinely thought I'd found someone who understood me, someone who saw past all my insecurities and loved me anyway. The wedding was small, just immediate family and a few close friends. We got married at this gorgeous estate in upstate New York. Everything felt like a fairy tale, except fairy tales don't usually involve your husband pulling out legal documents on your honeymoon. We were in Croatia. Nikolai said he had property there, wanted to show me around. On our 3rd day, we were sitting on the balcony of this villa overlooking the Adriatic Sea, and he handed me a folder. "What's this?" I asked. "Just some paperwork," he said casually. "For the property here. I'm adding you to some documents. You need to sign." I didn't read them carefully. I know. But we were married. I trusted him. The documents were in Croatian and English, and the English parts just looked like standard property transfer stuff. I signed them. Looking back, that was the moment I sealed my fate. The first weird thing happened about a month after we got back. I was going through some mail that came to our apartment. Nikolai had moved into my place in Brooklyn since it was bigger, and I found a letter addressed to him from some law firm in Montenegro. The envelope was already open. Inside was a document. I don't speak Montenegrin or Serbian or whatever language it was in, but I saw my name, my full legal name, and my father's name, and a lot of numbers. I took a photo of it on my phone and put it back. That night, I casually asked Nikolai about Montenegro. "Do you have business there?" I asked over dinner. His expression didn't change. "Some investments." "Why?" "Just curious. You never really talk about your business." "It's boring," he said with a smile. "Real estate, contracts, logistics. You don't want to hear about it." But I did want to hear about it now. I started paying more attention. Little things I'd ignored before suddenly seemed suspicious, like how Nikolai always took calls in another room, how he had a second phone he kept in his car, how sometimes he'd disappear for 2 or 3 days on business trips and come back exhausted but wouldn't tell me where he'd been. And my dad called Nikolai constantly, more than he called me. I began to feel like I was living with a stranger. 2 months after the honeymoon, I met up with my best friend Chelsea for coffee in the West Village. I hadn't seen her much since the wedding. Nikolai always seemed to have plans for us, and she looked worried the moment she saw me. "Riley," she said, gripping my hand across the table, "are you okay? You look exhausted." "I'm fine," I lied. "You're not fine. You've lost weight, and you barely respond to texts anymore." I wanted to tell her everything. About the documents, the weird phone calls, the feeling that something was very wrong, but I didn't know what to say. I didn't have proof of anything, just this gnawing anxiety in my gut. "Marriage is just an adjustment," I said weakly. Chelsea stared at me. "Riley, if something's wrong, you can tell me." Nothing's wrong, but everything was wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. Nikolai was snoring softly beside me, and I just lay there staring at the ceiling. At 2 in the morning, I got up and went to his study, the spare bedroom he'd converted into his office. His computer was locked, but his filing cabinet wasn't. I know I shouldn't have, but I had to know what I was dealing with. I found the folder in the bottom drawer. It was thick, full of documents in multiple languages. English, Russian, something that looked like Croatian or Serbian, maybe Montenegrin. And right there, in English, on official letterhead from a law firm in Podgorica, Montenegro, was a contract. A marriage contract. Not a prenup. A marriage contract. It had my name on it, my father's name, Nikolai's name, and a third name I didn't recognize. Someone named Dmitry Volkov. The contract was dated 6 months before I even met Nikolai. My hands started shaking so badly I could barely hold the pages. I took photos of everything with my phone. Every single page. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure Nikolai would wake up and find me, but he didn't. I put everything back exactly as I found it and went back to bed. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning I called in sick to work. I'm a graphic designer at a small firm in Soho, and my boss Vanessa is pretty understanding. "Take care of yourself," she said when I called. If only she knew. As soon as Nikolai left for his office downtown, I sent the photos to a translation service online, the kind where you pay extra for rush service and confidentiality. Then I waited. I tried to distract myself with work emails, with cleaning, with anything, but all I could think about was that contract, the date, 6 months before we met. The translation came back at 3 p.m. I sat on the couch and opened the file on my laptop, and then I read the words that destroyed my entire life. Agreement of marriage and transfer of legal guardianship. Legal guardianship. I kept reading. In consideration of the debt owed by James Mitchell, that's my father, to Dmitry Volkov in the amount of $2.4 $2.4 million USD. The following terms have been agreed upon. $2.4 million. The debtor agrees to facilitate the marriage of his daughter, Riley Mitchell, to Nikolai Volkov, acting as representative and nephew of Dmitry Volkov. Upon legal marriage, as recognized by the laws of Montenegro and the United States, full legal guardianship and decision-making authority over Riley Mitchell shall transfer to Nikolai Volkov, with oversight by Dmitry Volkov. This arrangement satisfies the debt in full. I stopped reading. I couldn't breathe. Guardianship. They'd made me a ward, like I was a child, or mentally incapable. But it got worse. Riley Mitchell hereby agrees to reside in Montenegro for no less than 6 months per year, and to fulfill all duties as outlined in Appendix C. I scrolled down to Appendix C with trembling fingers. Appendix C was a list of duties, social appearances at business functions, hosting obligations, representation of family interests, and then at the bottom in very clinical language, provision of an heir within 3 years of marriage. I slammed the laptop shut. I ran to the bathroom and got violently sick. My father sold me. He sold me like property to pay off a debt, and I'd married the man who bought me. I'd signed away my own freedom on that balcony in Croatia, thinking I was just signing property papers. I sat on the bathroom floor for an hour, maybe longer, just trying to process what I'd learned. Then I got angry. I called my father. He answered on the second ring. "Riley, how are you, sweetheart? We need to talk," I said. My voice sounded strange, flat. "In person. Now. Is everything okay? Dad. Now." There was a pause. "I'm at the office. Can you come here?" "No. Somewhere public. The coffee place near your office. 30 minutes. I hung up before he could argue. I put on jeans and a sweater, grabbed my purse, and left the apartment. I didn't leave a note for Nikolai. I didn't care. My father was already at the coffee shop when I arrived. He looked nervous. Good. I sat down across from him and pulled up the photos on my phone. "Explain this," I said. His face went white. "Riley, let me. $2.4 million. I said quietly. "You owed someone $2.4 million, and you paid it by selling me. It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Dad?" "Because this contract says I'm Nikolai's legal ward, that I belong to him, that you transferred guardianship of me, like I'm a piece of property." People at nearby tables were starting to stare. I didn't care. "Lower your voice," my father hissed. "No." He ran a hand over his face. He looked old suddenly, defeated. I was desperate. The business was failing. I made some bad investments, borrowed money from the wrong people. Dmitry Volkov was going to Riley. He was going to kill me. So you sold your daughter instead. "I protected you," he said, leaning forward. "Do you understand what these people are? What they do? Dmitry would have taken you anyway, but he would have just used you and thrown you away. This way you're married to his nephew. You have legal protections. Status. You're not just some what? Some victim? Dad, I am a victim. Your victim." He was crying now, actual tears running down his face. "I didn't have a choice. You had a choice. You could have told me. You could have gone to the police. You could have declared bankruptcy. But instead you conspired with criminals to trick me into signing away my own freedom. Architected narrative complexity with legal constraints and character ambiguity. Good emotional intensity here. Now I need to continue building. Riley needs to confront Nikolai, and there should be some complication or twist that makes this more complex than just escape and divorce. Maybe Nikolai isn't entirely what he seems either, or there's a reason she can't easily leave. The Montenegro law aspect is important here. The police couldn't help," he said quietly. "And Dmitry has connections everywhere. In the US, in Europe. You can't run from him. Watch me." I stood up to leave. "Riley, wait." He grabbed my arm. "If you try to leave Nikolai, if you violate the contract, Dmitry will enforce it. He has legal standing in Montenegro, and the documents you signed, they're binding there. You're considered a legal dependent under their law. That's insane. This is human trafficking. It's a legal gray area. The marriage is legitimate in both countries. The guardianship is recognized in Montenegro. You can't just walk away." I pulled my arm free. "You're pathetic." I left him sitting there. I walked for hours after that. Through the city, across the Brooklyn Bridge, through neighborhoods I didn't recognize. I needed to think. By the time I got home, it was after 10 p.m. Nikolai was waiting for me in the living room. "Where have you been?" he asked. His voice was calm. Too calm. "Out. Your father called me. He said you found the contracts." I turned to face him fully. "So we're not even going to pretend anymore." Nikolai stood up. He moved slowly, deliberately, not threatening, exactly, but watchful. "I think we should talk about how you and my father conspired to trap me in a fake marriage. It's not fake. We're legally married. Under false pretenses. Riley," he said my name softly. "I know how this looks, but it's more complicated than you think. Really. Because it looks pretty simple to me. You bought me. My father sold me. Done. I didn't buy you. I agreed to marry you as part of a business arrangement with my uncle. That's different. How is that different? Because I could have treated you like property, and I didn't. I could have brought you to Montenegro immediately and locked you in a house somewhere. But I didn't. I let you keep your job, your friends, your life. Let me?" My voice rose. "You let me have my own life. Do you hear yourself?" He ran a hand through his hair, looking frustrated. "You don't understand the situation. My uncle is not a good man. Your father owed him a significant amount of money, and Dmitry always collects. Always. When your father couldn't pay, Dmitry was going to take you as collateral, but not as a wife, as something else." I felt sick again. "I convinced him to let me marry you instead," Nikolai continued. "To do this legitimately, to give you legal protection as my wife, instead of leaving you to whatever Dmitry had planned. So I'm supposed to thank you for buying me in a slightly nicer way. I'm not asking for thanks. I'm asking you to understand that this was the best option out of a list of terrible options. choice. The best option would have been to tell me the truth. Would you have agreed to marry me if I had? Of course not. Exactly. He moved closer. Riley, I know I should have told you. I know this is wrong, but I was trying to protect you. By lying to me, by tricking me into signing documents I didn't understand, by giving you a life, a real life, not whatever nightmare my uncle had in mind. I wanted to scream, or cry, or both. I don't believe you, any of you. This is all just manipulation. Then leave, he said quietly. That stopped me. What? Leave, right now. Pack your things and go. I won't stop you. I stared at him. Just like that? Just like that. What about the contract? Your uncle? I'll handle it. It sounded too easy, too simple. How? That's my problem, not yours. I didn't trust it. You're lying. I'm not. You want out? Get out. The door's right there. I looked at the door, then back at him. But, he added, if you leave now, you need to understand something. My uncle will find you. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but eventually. And when he does, you won't have my protection anymore. You'll be on your own. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Dimitri doesn't forget debts. And in his mind, your father's debt was paid with you. If you leave me, you invalidate the contract, which means the debt is unpaid again. And Dimitri will collect. My head was spinning. So my choices are, stay with you, or spend my life running from your uncle. Yes. I sat down on the couch, my legs suddenly too weak to hold me. Nikolai sat down beside me, keeping some distance between us. I know this is impossible. I know you hate me right now. You have every right to. But Riley, I need you to believe one thing. What? I never wanted to hurt you. When we met at that gala, yes, it was arranged. But everything after that, getting to know you, falling in. He stopped himself. Everything after that was real for me. I laughed bitterly. Falling in what? Love? You're going to tell me you love me now? I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm just explaining how I feel. Your feelings don't matter. You lied to me. You trapped me. I know. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, I spoke. I need time to think. I'm sleeping in the spare room tonight. Okay. And I need space. Don't talk to me unless I talk to you first. Okay. I stood up and walked to the spare bedroom, the one that used to be his office. I locked the door behind me and sat on the floor with my back against it. Then I finally let myself cry. The next few days were surreal. I went to work like normal, came home, made dinner, barely spoke to Nikolai. He gave me space like I asked, but I could feel him watching me, waiting. I called Chelsea and told her I needed to see her urgently. We met at her apartment in the East Village. The moment I walked in, she knew something was seriously wrong. What happened? She asked, pulling me inside. I told her everything. The contracts, the debt, the marriage arrangement, all of it. She sat there in stunned silence for a full minute. We need to call the police, she finally said. And tell them what? That I'm legally married to someone? That I signed documents I didn't fully read? That you were trafficked? Technically, I wasn't. The marriage is legal. I consented to it. I just didn't know all the details. And the guardianship stuff is only enforceable in Montenegro. In the US, I'm just a married woman. This is insane. There has to be something we can do. I've been researching. Montenegrin law is complicated. Their family code has provisions for guardianship that are different from US law. And Nikolai's uncle apparently has connections in their government. Even if I could get the marriage annulled here, the contract would still be enforceable there. So don't go there. He's threatening that his uncle will come after me if I leave, that I'll be in danger. Chelsea grabbed my hands. Riley, that's what abusers say. They isolate you, make you think you can't leave, that you need them for protection. But what if he's telling the truth? What if his uncle really is dangerous? Then you go to the FBI. This is international criminal activity. I wanted to believe her, but I'd spent 3 nights researching online, reading about Dmitry Volkov. The man was connected to legitimate businesses across Eastern Europe. He'd never been convicted of anything. He was, on paper, a respectable businessman. But the rumors online were dark. Money laundering, extortion. People who crossed him tended to disappear. I don't know what to do, I admitted. Start with a lawyer, Chelsea said firmly. A good one. Someone who specializes in international law. That seemed reasonable. The next day I made an appointment with a lawyer Chelsea recommended. Her name was Patricia Chen, and she had experience with international family law. I brought all the documents, the originals I'd stolen from Nikolai's office, the translations, everything. Patricia reviewed them carefully, her expression growing more serious by the minute. Finally, she looked up at me. This is complex. Can you help me? I can try, but you need to understand the situation. The marriage itself is legal, and would be difficult to annul without proving fraud or coercion. And since you weren't explicitly coerced, I was tricked. I understand. But legally, fraud would require proving that Nikolai misrepresented something essential about himself or the marriage. The fact that there was a financial arrangement between him and your father doesn't automatically constitute fraud in the eyes of the law. What about the guardianship thing? That's where it gets interesting. The guardianship provisions in these documents rely on Montenegrin law, which does have different standards than US law. However, they're not enforceable here. You're a US citizen, an adult, legally competent. No US court would recognize this guardianship. But if I went to Montenegro, then you'd be subject to their legal system. And if these documents are properly filed there, which they appear to be, then yes, the guardianship provisions could be enforced. So I just never go to Montenegro. That would be the safest option. But Riley, I need to ask you something. Do you feel physically safe right now? Has your husband threatened you or harmed you in any way? I thought about it. No, he's actually been letting me have space. He said I could leave if I wanted to. Patricia raised an eyebrow. He said that? Yes. But then he warned me that his uncle would come after me. That could be construed as a threat or a warning. I don't know anymore. She made some notes. notes. Here's what I recommend. First, document everything. Keep copies of all these documents in a safe place, not in your shared home. Second, open a separate bank account that only you have access to. Third, stay in the US and avoid traveling internationally, especially to Montenegro or anywhere in that region. And fourth, consider whether you want to pursue annulment or divorce. What's the difference? An annulment would declare the marriage invalid from the beginning. A divorce would legally end a valid marriage. Given the circumstances, an annulment might be possible if we can prove fraud, but it would be difficult. A divorce would be more straightforward, but would take time. How much time? 6 months minimum, possibly longer if it's contested. 6 months of living with Nikolai, knowing what I knew. 6 months of looking over my shoulder. I need to think about this, I said. Patricia nodded. That's fine, but Riley, please be careful. If what you're saying about this Dmitry Volkov is true, you could be in real danger. I left her office feeling more confused than ever. That night, I came home to find Nikolai sitting at the kitchen table with a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. We need to talk, he said when I walked in. I don't have anything to say to you. Then just listen. I was too tired to argue. I sat down across from him. He poured whiskey into both glasses and pushed one toward me. I didn't touch it. I talked to my uncle today, he said. My stomach dropped. About what? About you. About the contract. About this whole situation. And he's willing to release you from the agreement. I stared at him. What's the catch? 2 conditions. First, your father has to pay back the 2.4 million plus interest. That's about 3 million now. He doesn't have that kind of money. That's the whole reason we're in this mess. I know. Which brings me to the second condition. I pay back the debt for him. You? Yes. Why would you do that? He looked at me directly. Because I don't want you to stay if you don't want to be here. And because I have the money. $3 million. Yes. I didn't understand. Why? If you pay back the debt, you get nothing. You'd be out $3 million and have no wife. What's in it for you? Nothing. Except knowing I did the right thing. I wanted to believe him, but I'd been lied to too many times. I don't trust you, I said flatly. I don't blame you. This could be another manipulation. Another trap. It could be, but it's not. How do I know that? He pulled out his phone and showed me an email. It was from his uncle, in English. Agreement received. Upon payment of $3 MUSD, contract null and void. R. Mitchell released from all obligations. I read it 3 times. Is this real? I whispered. Yes. When did you arrange this? I've been working on it since the night you found the contracts. I knew once you knew the truth, I couldn't keep you here. Not morally. So I've been negotiating with Dmitry. $3 million is a lot of money. I have it. My business investments have done well. Nikolai, I didn't know what to say. Why would you do this? He was quiet for a moment, staring at his whiskey glass. Because the day I met you at that gala. Yes, it was arranged. My uncle had shown me your picture, told me about the debt, explained what he wanted. I was supposed to approach you, charm you, get you to trust me, and you did. I did. But Riley, here's the thing. I wasn't supposed to actually fall for you. That wasn't part of the plan. I was supposed to marry you, bring you to Montenegro, and basically keep you as a status symbol. A pretty American wife for business appearances. My chest felt tight. But then I got to know you, he continued. And you were smart and funny and talented. You made me laugh. You challenged me. You weren't like anyone I'd ever met. And I realized I was in love with you. Really in love. Not just pretending. That doesn't make what you did okay. I know. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just explaining why I'm offering you a way out now. Because I love you. And love means you want the other person to be free and happy. Even if it means losing them. I felt tears running down my face. I don't know what to believe anymore. You don't have to believe anything. Take the deal. I'll pay Dmitry. You file for divorce. You move on with your life. You never have to see me again. Just like that. Just like that. I picked up the whiskey glass and drank it in one gulp. It burned going down. I need time, I said finally, to process this. To figure out if this is real or just another manipulation. Take all the time you need. But here's the thing about time. It has a way of revealing truths you don't want to face. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Nikolai carefully. I looked for signs of deception, for cracks in his story. But he was consistent. He gave me space. He didn't pressure me. He moved back into the spare bedroom without being asked. And I started to notice things I'd missed before. Like how he always made sure the apartment was stocked with my favorite tea. How he'd been paying my student loans without telling me. How there were books on the shelves I'd mentioned wanting to read that I never bought. Small kindnesses I'd attributed to normal husband behavior. But that took on new meaning now. I also did more research on Dmitry Volkov. I used databases Chelsea had access to through her job as an investigative journalist. And what I found was chilling. Dmitry Volkov wasn't just a businessman. He was the head of a criminal organization that operated across Eastern Europe and had tentacles reaching into the US. Money laundering, human trafficking, extortion. The man was involved in everything. And several women who'd been connected to his organization had gone missing over the years. That's when I realized Nikolai might have been telling the truth. His uncle really was dangerous. And whatever Nikolai's original motivations, he might have actually saved me from something much worse. But that didn't mean I owed him anything. 3 weeks after the conversation where Nikolai offered to buy my freedom, my father showed up at our apartment. I was alone. Nikolai was at his office downtown. Dad looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled. His tie was loose. And he had the look of a man who hadn't slept in days. We need to talk, he said when I opened the door. I don't want to talk to you. Riley, please. Just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let him in. He sat down on the couch and put his head in his hands. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Your apology doesn't change anything. I know, but you need to know the truth, the whole truth. I already know the truth. You sold me to pay your debt. That's not the whole story. He looked up at me. Riley, your mother was involved with Dmitry Volkov before she died. I felt like the floor had dropped dropped out from under me. What? They had a relationship years ago, before I met her. She broke it off when she found out what kind of man he really was, but Dimitri never forgot her. My mother had died when I was 12. Cancer. It had been sudden and devastating. Why are you telling me this? Because the debt wasn't just about money. Dimitri loaned me the money. Yes, but he did it deliberately. He set me up to fail, to give him leverage. He wanted you because you're your mother's daughter. I felt sick. That's disgusting. I know. When he told me the terms, marry you to his nephew or he'd take you himself, I chose the nephew because I thought Nikolai might at least treat you like a person. Did Nikolai know about mom and his uncle? I don't know, maybe. This changed everything. Or did it? I couldn't think straight. Get out, I said. Riley, get out of my apartment, now. He left. I sat on the couch in shock for hours. When Nikolai came home, he found me still sitting there in the dark. Riley, what's wrong? I told him what my father had said, about my mother, about Dimitri's obsession. Nikolai went very still. I didn't know that. Really. My uncle never told me why he wanted you specifically. I thought it was just business. Your father's debt. But it wasn't. It was personal. Your uncle was obsessed with my mother, and when he couldn't have her, he decided to have me instead. Nikolai sat down beside me. That's sick. Your family is sick. I know. We sat in silence. Then Nikolai said something that changed everything again. I can't pay the debt. I turned to look at him. What? The 3 million. I can't pay it. But you said. I lied. I don't have that kind of money. My business is successful, but not that successful. I was hoping I could borrow it or liquidate assets, but I've been trying for 3 weeks and I can't get it together. I felt betrayed all over again. So what? We're just stuck? Forever? No, there's another option. What? We run. I stared at him. Run where? Anywhere. Everywhere. We disappear. Change our names. Start over. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. We liquidate what I do have, probably about 700,000. We leave the country. We go somewhere Dimitri can't easily reach us. South America, maybe. Or Asia. That's insane. It's the only option left. What about your life? Your business? My life is nothing without you in it. I wanted to believe him, but I was so tired of being lied to, of being manipulated. How do I know this isn't just another trick? I asked quietly. You don't. You just have to decide whether you want to take the chance. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Riley. But it's what we've got. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Running away with Nikolai meant giving up everything. My career, my friends, my life in New York. It meant constantly looking over my shoulder, never knowing if Dimitri would find us. But staying meant, what exactly? Living in this apartment with a man I didn't trust, bound by a contract I'd signed without knowing what it really meant. I need to talk to Chelsea, I said finally. Okay. I met Chelsea the next day at a diner in Queens, far from anywhere Nikolai or my father might look for us. I told her everything. The new information about my mother, Nikolai's confession that he couldn't pay the debt, his proposal that we run. Chelsea listened to it all, her expression growing more horrified by the minute. Riley, you cannot run away with this man, she said when I finished. Do you hear yourself? He's lied to you repeatedly. He trapped you in a fraudulent marriage, and now he wants you to give up your entire life to run away with him. That's textbook abuser behavior. But what if he's telling the truth now? What if he really does love me and wants to protect me? Then he should have told you the truth from the beginning. But he didn't. And now we're here. Chelsea grabbed my hands across the table. Riley, listen to me. You have other options. You can go to the FBI. You can get witness protection. The FBI can't help me. I signed those documents willingly, and Dmitri Volkov has never been convicted of anything. There's no case. Then you stay here, you divorce Nikolai, and you live your life. If Dmitri comes after you, then you deal with it. But you don't run away with the man who trafficked you. He didn't traffic me. He married me. Under false pretenses. Riley, why are you defending him? That stopped me. Why was I defending him? Because somewhere in the past 3 weeks I'd started to believe that maybe Nikolai really did care about me. That maybe his feelings were real, even if everything else was a lie. I'm not defending him, I said finally. I'm just trying to figure out what to do. What you do is you stay here, you get a divorce, and you move on. You don't let these people control your life anymore. She was right. I knew she was right. But when I got home that night, I found Nikolai packing. What are you doing? I asked, getting ready to leave. With or without you? You're leaving. Yes. My uncle called today. He knows I've been trying to raise the money. He knows I'm planning something. He's giving me a week to bring you to Montenegro. Or he's coming here himself. My blood went cold. He's coming here? Yes. So I'm leaving. Tonight. I have a flight to Sao Paulo booked under a different name. I have arrangements for a temporary identity. I have 700,000 in liquid assets ready to transfer. Nikolai, I'm not asking you to come with me, Riley. I'm telling you what I'm doing. If you want to stay, stay. File for divorce. Move on. Maybe you'll be fine. Maybe my uncle will leave you alone once I'm gone. Or maybe he won't. That's the risk you take. I looked at this man who'd lied to me, trapped me, and now claimed to love me. This man who was willing to give up everything to run away. And I thought about my options. Stay here and hope Dmitri leaves me alone once Nikolai is gone. But knowing my mother's history with Dmitri, knowing his obsession, I didn't think he would. Go to the authorities and hope they could help. But I had no evidence of actual crimes, just a messy legal situation and a lot of accusations. Or run with Nikolai, give up my life here for an uncertain future with a man I didn't fully trust. None of them were good options, but one of them might keep me alive. When does the flight leave? I asked quietly. Midnight. I looked at my watch. It was 8 p.m. I need to pack. We took a cab to JFK. Nikolai kept checking his phone nervously. I kept looking over my shoulder. At the airport, Nikolai handed handed me a passport. Your new identity, for now. I opened it. The photo was mine, one from our wedding, but the name was different. Catherine Williams. Where did you get this? I have connections. It's good enough to get us out of the country. We'll get better ones in Brazil. This was really happening. I was fleeing the country with a fake passport, running from criminals, with a man I still wasn't sure I could trust. We went through security. Everything went smoothly. Too smoothly. At the gate, Nikolai relaxed slightly. We're going to make it. That's when I saw him. A man in a dark suit standing near the window, watching us. I recognized him from photos I'd seen during my research. Dmitry Volkov's head of security. A man named Ivan who'd been implicated in several disappearances. Nikolai, I whispered. We need to go. What? Why? That man. By the window. He's one of your uncle's people. Nikolai followed my gaze and his face went white. How did he find us? I don't know, but we need to leave. Now. But it was too late. Ivan was walking toward us, and he had 2 other men with him. Nikolai, Ivan said in heavily accented English. Mr. Volkov wants to speak with you. We're about to board a flight. No, you're not. People at the gate were starting to notice the confrontation. I looked around desperately for security, for anyone who could help. Ivan pulled out his phone and showed Nikolai something. Whatever it was, it made Nikolai's face go even paler. Fine, Nikolai said quietly, but leave Riley out of this. Mr. Volkov wants to see both of you. No, I said. I'm not going anywhere with you. Ivan looked at me with cold eyes. Miss Mitchell, you can come with us voluntarily, or we can make a scene here. Your choice. I looked at Nikolai, panicked. Just come, Nikolai said quietly. It'll be okay. It was not going to be okay. They drove us to a hotel in Manhattan, the Grand something or other, a suite on the top floor. Dmitry Volkov was waiting for us. He was older than I expected, probably mid-60s, with gray hair and sharp features. He was wearing an expensive suit and holding a glass of cognac. Nikolai, he said warmly. And Riley, so good to finally meet you properly. Uncle Dmitry, Nikolai said stiffly. Sit. Dmitry gestured to a couch. Please, we have much to discuss. We sat. Ivan and the other men stood by the door, blocking our exit. Dmitry studied me for a long moment. You look so much like your mother. Elena was beautiful. You have her eyes. I said nothing. Did your father tell you about Elena and me? Dmitry asked. He told me you were obsessed with her. Dmitry laughed. Obsessed. Such a dramatic word. I loved her. She was the only woman I ever loved, and she left me for your father, a weak man with no vision. She left you because you're a criminal. I'm a businessman. There's a difference. Not to the people you've hurt. Dmitry smiled. You have spirit. Like your mother. This is good. He turned to Nikolai. You've been very foolish, nephew. Running away? With my property? Riley is not property. According to our contract, she is. You know this. The contract is wrong. It's immoral. Perhaps. But it is legal. In Montenegro, at least. And that's where you're both going. No, I said. I'm a U.S. citizen. You can't force me to leave the country, can't I? Dmitry pulled out his phone and showed me photos. Chelsea. At her apartment. Getting coffee. Walking to work. One phone call. Dmitry said quietly. And your friend has a very unfortunate accident. You understand? I understood. So here's what will happen. Dmitry continued. You both will come with me to Montenegro. You will fulfill the terms of the contract. Riley, you will serve as Nikolai's wife and attend to the duties outlined in the agreement. You will give me a grandnephew within 3 years. And you will do all of this willingly, with a smile, or people you care about will suffer. Is this clear? Crystal clear, I said bitterly. Dmitry smiled. Good. We leave tomorrow morning. I've arranged everything. That night they put us in a room at the hotel, still the suite, but with Ivan stationed outside the door. I sat on the bed, numb with shock and fear. Nikolai paced the room, running his hands through his hair. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have known he'd find us. How did he find us? I don't know. Maybe he's been tracking my phone, or maybe he has people at the airport. I don't know. We're trapped. Not necessarily. What do you mean? Nikolai stopped pacing and looked at me. There's something I haven't told you. Of course there is. Riley, I'm serious. This is important. What? For the past 6 months I've been working with the FBI. I stared at him. What? I'm an informant. I've been giving them information about my uncle's operations. Money laundering. Trafficking. All of it. You're a what? An informant. I approached them about a year ago, after I realized what kind of man my uncle really was. I wanted out of the family business. The FBI offered me a deal. Information in exchange for immunity and witness protection. My head was spinning. So this whole time, I was gathering evidence. That's why I kept my distance from you sometimes. Why I took mysterious phone calls. I was meeting with my handlers. Does your uncle know? No. But the FBI has been building a case. They're close to making arrests. I was supposed to deliver one final piece of evidence. Financial records that prove Dmitry's money laundering operation. Do you have them? Yes. On a flash drive, hidden in my shoe. I looked down at his shoes. So what do? We get those records to my FBI contact. They arrest Dmitry. We testify. And then we disappear into witness protection. Together? He looked at me. Only if you want to. Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. Ivan entered. Mr. Volkov wants to see you. Both of you. Now. We followed him down to another suite. Dmitry was there with a laptop open. He looked furious. Tell me, he said to Nikolai. How long have you been betraying me? Nikolai went very still. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Dmitry slammed his hand on the table. I have sources in the FBI. I know you've been feeding them information. I know about the case they're building. Uncle, where are the financial records? I don't have them. Liar. Dmitry nodded to Ivan, who punched Nikolai hard in the stomach. Nikolai doubled over, gasping. Stop, I shouted. Stop hurting him. Dmitry looked at me. Then tell me where the records are. I don't know. Search them, Dmitry ordered. Ivan and his men searched us both thoroughly. They found the flash drive drive in Nikolai's shoe. Dmitri examined it, then smiled coldly. So close, nephew. So very close. He dropped the flash drive on the floor and crushed it under his heel. Did you really think you could betray me and live? Dmitri asked. Did you think I wouldn't find out? I was trying to do the right thing, Nikolai said, still clutching his stomach. The right thing, Dmitri laughed. You sound like your mother. She was always too soft. He pulled out a gun. I felt my heart stop. I'm going to kill you, Dmitri said calmly. And then I'm going to take Riley back to Montenegro, where she belongs. No, I said. Please, I'll do anything. Just don't kill him. Dmitri looked at me with interest. Anything. Anything. Do you love him? Despite everything he's done? I looked at Nikolai. Despite the lies, despite the manipulation, despite everything, I realized the answer was yes. I love him, I said. How touching. Dmitri raised the gun, and then the door exploded inward. FBI agents swarmed into the room, shouting orders. Dmitri tried to raise his gun but was tackled to the ground. Ivan and his men were restrained. A woman in an FBI jacket approached us. Mr. Volkov? Miss Mitchell? I'm Special Agent Morrison. You're safe now. I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. Nikolai put his arm around me, and for once I didn't pull away. How did you find us? Nikolai asked Agent Morrison. We've been tracking Dmitri's phone. When you failed to make your scheduled check-in, we knew something was wrong. We've been waiting for an opportunity to arrest him with enough evidence. This was it. Kidnapping, extortion, attempted murder, all in front of witnesses and on hotel security cameras. They led Dmitri and his men away in handcuffs. Dmitri stared at me the entire time, his expression unreadable. Agent Morrison turned to us. We're going to need your statements. And Mr. Volkov, we'll need to discuss your witness protection arrangement. What about Riley? Nikolai asked. She can enter the program with you if she chooses. Given the circumstances, she's certainly in danger from any remaining members of Dmitri's organization. I thought about that. Witness protection meant a new identity, a new life, no contact with my old friends or family, but it also meant freedom, real freedom. Can I have a moment? I asked. Agent Morrison nodded. Take your time. I walked to the window and looked out at the Manhattan skyline. This city was my home. I'd built a life here, but that life had been built on a foundation of lies. Nikolai came to stand beside me. You don't have to come with me. I know. Agent Morrison can arrange protection for you without witness protection. You could stay here. Keep your life. Could I, though? Your uncle's people would come after me eventually. Maybe. Definitely, I corrected. We stood in silence for a moment. Why did you really do it? I asked quietly. Betray your uncle. Risk everything. Because I grew up watching him destroy people. My mother left him when I was young because she couldn't stand what he'd become. I saw firsthand what he did to people who crossed him, and when he told me to marry you as part of this scheme, I realized I'd become just like him, a person who treated others as property. But you went along with it. At first, yes. But then I met you, and you were kind and genuine. You made me want to be better. So I contacted the FBI. I figured if I was going to hell anyway for what I'd done, at least I could take my uncle with me. That's not exactly a love story, I said. No, it's not, but it's the truth. I turned to face him. If we do this, if I come with you into witness protection, I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more lies, ever, about anything, even small things. I need complete honesty. I promise. And if I decide I want to leave, you let me go. No guilt trips. No manipulation. No threats about your uncle's organization. You just let me go. I promise that too. I searched his face for any sign of deception. All I saw was exhaustion, and something that looked like hope. Okay, I said. I'll come with you. Agent Morrison arranged everything over the next few days. We gave our statements. The prosecutors explained that Dmitri Volkov was facing multiple charges and would likely spend the rest of his life in prison. The marriage contract was declared invalid by both U.S. and Montenegrin authorities. Turns out when one party to a contract is arrested for human trafficking, the contract becomes void. My father was arrested as well, charged as an accessory. I didn't visit him. I had nothing left to say. I did meet with Chelsea one last time, in a secure FBI facility. She hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. I thought I'd lost you. You almost did. Are you really doing this? Witness protection? Yes. And you're going with him? After everything? I know it sounds crazy, but Chelsea, he saved my life. Multiple times. And I believe him when he says he loves me. Do you love him? I thought about it. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I just love the person he could be. But I want to find out. Chelsea's eyes filled with tears. I'm going to miss you so much. I'm going to miss you too. Promise me you'll be happy. Wherever you end up. I'll try. We said goodbye. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. The FBI set us up with new identities. I became Sarah Phillips. Nikolai became Daniel Phillips. We were supposedly from Ohio, had been married for 4 years, and were moving to a small town in Wyoming where nobody knew us. It was strange becoming someone else, learning to respond to a different name, creating a new history. But it was also freeing. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't living under the shadow of my father's debt or Dmitri's contract. I was just me, or the new version of me. Anyway, Nikolai, Daniel, and I rented a small house on the outskirts of town. He got a job at a local construction company. I started freelancing as a designer online under my new name. We were careful around each other at first. We slept in separate rooms. We were polite and distant, like roommates. But slowly, gradually, we started to really talk about his childhood, about my mother, about the choices we'd both made and regretted. One night, about 6 months into our new life, we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset. It was peaceful in a way New York never was. "Do you regret it?" Daniel asked suddenly. "Coming here? Giving up your old life?" I thought about it. Sometimes. I miss Chelsea. I miss the city. I miss my old job. But I don't miss living in fear. I don't miss wondering when Dimitri would come for me. I don't miss my father's lies. What about my lies? You haven't lied to me since we left New York. I promised I wouldn't. I know, and I appreciate that. We sat in silence for a while. Then I said, "I'm starting to understand something." "What's that?" "I spent so much time being angry at you for trapping me, for lying to me, that I didn't see what you gave up to set me free. You betrayed your family. You risked your life. You gave up your entire identity. For me. For us," he corrected. "For us," I agreed. I reached over and took his hand. It was the first time I'd voluntarily touched him since we'd entered witness protection. He looked down at our joined hands, surprised. "I'm not ready to forgive you completely," I said, "and I'm still figuring out how I feel about everything. But I want you to know that I see what you did, and I'm grateful." Riley, Sarah, you don't have to be grateful. I know, but I am anyway. That night, something shifted between us. We weren't just two people trapped together anymore. We were two people choosing to be together. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was a beginning. 3 years later, we're still in Wyoming. We've made friends in town. We've built a life together that's ours, not defined by contracts or debts or family obligations. Last month, Daniel proposed, properly this time, with a ring and everything. I said yes, because this time, it's real. This time, I know exactly what I'm agreeing to. This time, I'm choosing him freely. We're planning to renew our vows, or have a real wedding, I guess, since the first one doesn't really count. Something small, just us and a few close friends we've made here. Chelsea sent me a message through the FBI's secure channels. She's getting married too, to a journalist she met while covering a story. I can't attend her wedding, and she can't attend mine, but we're both happy, in our own ways. My father is serving 15 years for his role in the scheme. I don't write to him. Maybe someday I'll be able to forgive him, but I'm not there yet. Dimitri died in prison last year. Heart attack. Part of me felt relief when I heard. Part of me felt sad that my mother's first love had become such a monster. But mostly I felt free, because here's what I learned from all of this. Sometimes the person who hurts you can also be the person who saves you. Sometimes love doesn't look like you think it will. Sometimes the only way forward is to leave everything behind and start over. I'm not Riley Mitchell anymore. That girl died the day she found out her father sold her. I'm Sarah Phillips now. And Sarah Phillips chose her life, her husband, her future. That's the difference between being owned and being free. And I'll never let anyone take that freedom away again.